Bow before His Majesty! Where is the king? No, this can't be. I don't believe my eyes. Raise your heads, my people. I have come here for only one person.
Who does the king seek?
The girl who fed a hungry old man in the market every evening when everyone rejected and chased him always.
Me?
It's her. When everyone looked away, you saw me.
They say in the old African villages, the poorest hands sometimes carry the richest secrets, and the beggar you ignore today might be the one who decides your family's fate tomorrow. This is a story passed down like firelight from grandmother to grandchild, a tale of kindness, pride, and a shocking truth that no one in the village saw coming. Before you continue, ask yourself this. If a stranger in rags knocked on your door tonight, would you open it with kindness or shut it with shame? Stay till the end, because what this old beggar reveals will leave you speechless.
This is Tales by Sombaby, where the voice of Africa lives on and every story holds a truth.
In the heart of a small village called Ndola, nestled between whispering palm trees and a river that never stopped singing, there lived a young girl named Amara. She was the last daughter of a proud family, the Adeyemis, known throughout the land for their fine clothes, their loud laughter, and their even louder opinions about who deserved respect and who did not. Amara's father owned the largest cocoa farm in the region, and her mother wore beads so bright that children often stopped just to stare. But Amara was different from her brothers and sisters. While they walked past the poor with their noses lifted high, Amara's heart softened at the sight of suffering, and it was this soft heart that would soon change everything. Every market day, an old beggar sat at the edge of the village square, wrapped in a torn cloth the color of dust, his walking stick worn smooth from years of leaning on it. The villagers called him Baba Tobi, though no one truly knew where he came from or why he never left that same spot beneath the old baobab tree. Most people walked past him without a glance, some even mocked him under their breath, but Amara always stopped. She would kneel beside him, share her bread, and speak to him as though he were royalty rather than a ragged old man forgotten by the world. Her family scolded her endlessly for it, warning her that kindness to strangers brought nothing but shame to a respectable household. "You embarrass us," her eldest brother Kwame would hiss whenever he caught her sitting with the old man. "People are laughing at us, Amara, a daughter of the Adeyemis kneeling in the dirt beside a beggar." Her mother would shake her head and mutter about what the neighbors must think, while her father simply sighed, too tired to argue but clearly disappointed all the same. Yet, Amara never stopped. She believed, as her late grandmother once told her, that kindness was never wasted, even when the world could not see its worth. "A stranger's hunger," her grandmother used to whisper, "is sometimes a test sent by the ancestors themselves." One evening, after the market had emptied and the sky had turned the color of ripe mangoes, Amara noticed Baba Tobi struggling to stand. His legs trembled and his breath came in short, painful gasps. Without hesitation, she rushed to his side, wrapping his arm around her shoulder and helping him rise. "Let me walk you home, Baba," she said gently, ignoring the stares of passers-by who whispered about the foolish girl helping a beggar as though he were her own blood. He looked at her then, his cloudy eyes suddenly sharp with something she could not quite name, something ancient and knowing, though she brushed the feeling aside and simply guided him toward the forest path he always disappeared into. The path Baba Tobi led her down was one Amara had never walked before, narrow and winding, shaded by trees so old their roots looked like sleeping serpents coiled into the earth. She had heard stories about this forest, tales the elders told around the fire, about spirits who wore human skin and tested the hearts of mortals, but she pushed the thought away, focusing instead on steadying the old man's trembling steps. As they walked, Baba Tobi began to hum a tune Amara had never heard before, a melody that seemed to make the very leaves above them shiver and lean closer, as though the forest itself were listening. "Why do you help me, child, when your own family calls it shameful?" he asked suddenly, his voice steadier than she expected. Amara considered the question carefully before answering. "Because my grandmother always said the ancestors watch how we treat those who have nothing left to give back. Kindness isn't a transaction, Baba. It's who we are, or who we should be." The old man said nothing for a long moment, simply nodding slowly, and Amara noticed just for a second that his tired eyes seemed to glow faintly in the fading light, like embers refusing to die. They reached a small clearing where a modest hut stood, its walls made of clay and its roof thatched with dried palm leaves, unremarkable in every way except for the strange stillness that surrounded it. No birds sang here, no insects buzzed, only silent thick enough to feel against the skin. Amara helped Babatobi through the low doorway and fetched water from a clay pot in the corner without being asked. He drank slowly, watching her over the rim of the cup with an expression she could not quite place, somewhere between gratitude and quiet amusement, as though he knew something she did not. "Tell me, Amara, what would you wish for if an old beggar like me had the power to grant it?" She laughed softly, assuming he meant it as a joke to lighten the mood. "I would wish for my family to see people the way I see them, not by their clothes or their coins, but by their hearts." The old man's lips curved into the faintest smile, and for a moment the shadows in the hut seemed to bend unnaturally toward him, though Amara, exhausted from the long walk, barely noticed at all. Word of Amara's strange trip into the forest spread through Ndola faster than fire through dry season grass. By the next morning, her family was furious, convinced she had lost her senses entirely. "You spent the night in a beggar's hut?" her mother shrieked, wringing her hands, as neighbors gathered outside to whisper and stare. "Do you know what this does to our name?" Kwame paced back and forth, muttering that no man of good standing would ever want to marry into a family with such a reckless daughter. Amara stood quietly through the scolding, her mind still lingering on the strange glowing look in Babatobi's eyes the night before. That afternoon, as the family prepared for the village's annual harvest gathering, a commotion erupted near the entrance of Ndola. Riders on horseback, dressed in fine cloth embroidered with gold thread, approached the chief's compound, announcing that a great and powerful figure was coming to bless the harvest season, a figure whose name had not been spoken aloud in Ndola for over 20 years. The villagers scrambled to prepare, sweeping their compounds and dressing in their finest clothes, unaware that the very figure they awaited had already walked among them disguised as the poorest of men, testing their hearts one kindness at a time. The village square buzzed with nervous excitement as drums began to sound, and the chief himself stepped forward to greet the approaching procession. Amara's family, eager to reclaim a standing after the morning's embarrassment, pushed to the front of the crowd, her mother straightening her beads and her father clearing his throat importantly. Amara stood near the back, her thoughts still tangled around the strange forest hut and the old man's unusual questions, feeling as though something important was about to happen, though she could not name what. The drumming grew louder, and the crowd parted as a grand procession entered the square. At the center of it all walked a tall, regal figure, dressed in flowing robes the color of the setting sun, gold bangles catching the light with every step. The villagers gasped and bowed low, whispering his name with reverence. King Osazi, ruler of the neighboring kingdoms, a man known for testing villages in disguise before blessing them with his favor. But Amara's breath caught in her throat as she looked closer at his face, at the familiar cloudy eyes, now clear and sharp, at the smile she recognized instantly. It was Babatobi, standing before the entire village, no longer a beggar, but a king. Gasps rippled through the crowd like wind through dry season grass, and Amara's family stood frozen, their faces draining of color as realization dawned on them all at once. The very beggar they had mocked, the man Kwame had called an embarrassment, the stranger her mother had scolded Amara for helping, was in truth the powerful King Osazi himself, who had traveled through villages for years, disguised as the poorest of men, to see how people truly treated each other when they believed no one important was watching. The king's gaze swept over the crowd before settling, with unmistakable warmth, directly on Amara standing quietly near the back. "Come forward, child," he said, his voice carrying easily across the silent square. Amara stepped forward on trembling legs, aware of every eye now fixed upon her, including the stunned, disbelieving stares of her own family. "This girl," King Osazi announced to the gathered crowd, "fed me when I was hungry, helped me when I could not walk, and asked for nothing in return, not even knowing who I truly was." Her mother's mouth fell open, and Kwame stared at his sandals, unable to meet anyone's eyes, as whispers of astonishment spread through Ndola like wildfire through dry season grass. King Osazi turned to face Amara's family directly, and though his voice remained gentle, there was a weight to his words that silenced even the loudest gossips in the crowd. "I have walked through many villages in rags, and I have learned that gold and fine cloth reveal nothing about a person's worth. Only kindness shown to those who can offer nothing back reveals the true measure of a heart." Amara's father lowered his head in shame, finally understanding the cost of the pride he had allowed to guide his household for so many years, while her mother clutched her beads as though they suddenly felt heavier than before.
From that day forward, life in Nindula changed in ways the villagers still speak of during evening storytelling by the fire. King Osazi granted Amara's family his blessing, not because of their wealth or their name, but because of the daughter they had once mocked, and he made certain the whole village understood why. Amara herself never let the honor change her. She continued sitting beside strangers at the market, sharing whatever she had, because kindness, as her grandmother always taught her, was never about who was watching, but about who we choose to be. And so, the story of the kind girl and the beggar king lives on, passed from elder to child, a gentle reminder that in every village, in every heart, true nobility often wears the humble